Hello, Cheapskaters. I'm Kath Armstrong, creator of the Cheapskates Club, where our goal is to live life debt-free, cashed up and laughing. Welcome to our show tonight. If this is your first time visiting our channel, we're really glad to see you. And if it's not, welcome back. Today is Tuesday, the 11th of January, 2022, and this is a YouTube live event. If you'd like to join the live chat tonight, you will need to be logged into your YouTube or Gmail account. If you don't have either of those, please leave your comments in the comments section below. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them for you either at the end of the show or as soon as I can after. How have you all been? Are you all melting? It is so hot and humid here today. I feel like I'm just going to turn into a grease spot on the floor. It is awful. I hope it's not so bad where you are. I heard on the news tonight that they said it's Queensland weather in Melbourne. I don't like Queensland in summer. That's why I live in Melbourne. I don't want it to be hot and humid. So thank you to everyone who joined me last night on the premiere. That was really good. It was one of those spontaneous will I, won't I, should I, shouldn't I, yes I will and yes I should shows. And I hope it was useful to you. I have to say, this morning I went to Woolworths, our local Woolworths, which really isn't local to me. It's sort of out of the way a bit. And Wayne was with me. And it was a bit of like, he said, doesn't look too bad. I went, there's a few things missing. And he said, no, it's all right. And then we went to the deli and he went, there's nothing in the deli. And I went, there's not as much as they would normally have. There's very little. And, and then, of course, right next to the deli at this store is the meat cabinet. So walking past me, there's not a lot of meat, is there? No, not a lot of meat. Lucky we've got a good supply. Then you went, there's not a lot of baked beans, is there? No, baked beans, first thing to go. People eat them straight out of the tin. Okay. Well, maybe it's not as full as I thought it was. No, maybe it's not. It was actually quite empty. And then I watched a news clip of someone from Woolworths saying that it will be at least 3, 4 or more weeks before they get back to their regular stock levels, if they can. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Estelle, I hate the way every supermarket is laid out differently too, but you know what I hate more? When I go to the same supermarkets all the time and then all of a sudden they rearrange stuff on me. That nearly drives me nuts. I don't like that. Okay, 38 in Adelaide. Not all the time, but sometimes. He was home today and we were doing other errands. And on the way home, I wanted to see if I could get fresh milk. So we were driving past Woolies, so we went into Woolworths to see. So yeah, I have to say grocery shopping or any sort of shopping is not his favourite thing. But yeah, he comes occasionally. I don't mind that to carry the big things for me. My Aldi's well spread out again. It was starting before Christmas. Things were starting to get back into their normal quantities. Now they're sort of spread out again. So we'll see how they go. Hello, Catherine. Okay, look, I think we better get started. I've said my hellos and told you all whinged about the weather. So let's get started because I want to talk about my canning plan. I'm really excited about this. So let's get started. I'm going to read off my notes so that I don't miss anything, because if I don't, I'm bound to miss something really that I really want to share. Now, if you're new to the channel, you won't know, but if you've been around for a while, you'll probably know that I've been moving slowly away from being freezer dependent for our food preservation to more shelf-stable food preservation. Now, you could probably be wondering why, and if you're asking why, I'm really glad you asked. It occurred to me a couple of years ago, after a particularly lengthy blackout power outage. There is a lot of money tied up in our freezers. A lot of money and a lot of work tied up in those freezers. Now, our insurance should cover the cost if it's all lost or even partially lost, but it won't cover the cost of my time to do the shopping, to replenish it, or to grow the produce, or to actually preserve the food, do the vacuum sealing, do the cooking and the meal prep and getting it ready, all that sort of thing. And that's worth a lot too. We often undervalue our time when we are doing what we consider normal household chores. But those things are valuable. And not only that, but for me to find the time to do all the shopping and the prepping and the cooking and the baking and the vacuum sealing and making room in the freezer all over again, it's almost overwhelming. And with prices going up all the time, the chances are that even though I keep good records of what's in the freezer and how much it costs, because I keep track of what I spend on food, we will lose out. We'll be going against an insurance company. They'll make sure that they win somehow. So shelf-stable foods have become way more appealing to me, way more appealing. Now, if you're new to food preservation, you might be wondering what shelf-stable foods are. And they're just foods that don't need refrigeration or freezing to last. If you put them in your pantry, they won't go off, or not for a long time. So they could be dehydrated foods or tinned foods, or in the instance of home preserving, canned foods. Now, canning as a term isn't something that we Australians have used very much until recently. About 10 years or so, it started to become really popular here. But we are all familiar, as Aussies, with the term bottling. I'm sure most of us have had a mother or a grandmother or an auntie or a neighbour or somebody who had a Fowler's Vacola bottling outfit at some point in time. I was blessed to be given Wayne's grandmother's Fowler's Vacola outfit a few years ago. It's from the 1930s, so I don't use it, but I do cherish it, and it really hasn't changed much in all that time. And then my original one that I was using, my father-in-law found on Hard Rubbish and brought it home to me. It is a lovely 1970s model in a beautiful bright orange with a sunshine yellow lid, and it goes on the stove. I grew up with my mum bottling fruit and vegetables all summer long, and par for the course in our house, I'd be roped in to help. Now, I especially love doing pineapple. Mum would go into the markets and she would buy pineapple by the box, and she'd bring it home and we'd process pineapple. Fresh pineapple, it was so delicious. I was always in trouble for sneaking chunks. It was so sweet. She didn't put it in sugar syrup. It was just delicious. I loved it. And she'd growl at me. Every time she turned around, I'd have a piece of pineapple in my mouth. She would growl at me. Anyway, a few years ago, I discovered dehydrating. And I will say that was a game changer for the Armstrong Kitchen Food Preservation Program. Oh my goodness. It made so much difference to our lives, or to my life anyway. Now, I started out dehydrating in the oven, and then I learned how to use the sun, and we made a sun oven thing. Wayne made it for me. And eventually, so sophisticated, I moved up to an Aldi dehydrator that cost $49.99. And I thought that thing was the ants' pants. It was a real dehydrator with 3 trays and had a fan and a thermostat. Oh, I was so excited about getting that thing, and it has been a workhorse. I still use that dehydrator, and I now have a Sunbeam 6 tray that joined the kitchen appliances a few years ago. They go just about all year round for shelf-stable food preservation. Now, a few years ago, about 3 years ago, I finally managed to save up enough for a pressure canner. Now, that was a big expense for us. And I did hunt around, and I waited till I found one on sale to make it more affordable, to fit what I had saved. And if you're looking for one now, if you can get one, they've actually come down a little in price. You need to time your purchase, though, because the Aussie dollar against the US dollar causes the price to go up and down a little bit. But if you can get one, great. Now, I love my pressure canner. I love all my preserving tools. They all get a workout, and they all work out all year round. If you can preserve food for the long term, that is a huge money saver. It's a huge waste saver too. It's even a time saver. You know, if I want to make a meat pie, I don't have to wait for the meat to thaw. I just open a jar of mince. Here you go, here's a jar here. Add some dehydrated onion and some garlic, some tomato powder, a little gravy powder, a bit of water to mix it all up. And the pie filling's ready before the pastry's even thawed or the oven's heated up. It's wonderful to be able to go and get a ready-made something off the shelf. Tacos, less than 5 minutes to get ready using canned mince and beans. So easy. Soups. Soup is almost instant too. And I know soup's pretty quick anyway, especially in the pressure cooker. But if you open a jar of chicken and throw in some dehydrated carrots or some canned carrots, some dehydrated onion and celery, a jar or two of stock, by the time it's all boiling, it's ready. You have soup. You can add some beans if you want to. If you've got canned beans, pressure canned beans, throw the beans in. I have fallen in love with canning. I have fallen in love with having canned food in the pantry. It has, like I said, been a real game changer for the way I do things. Now, we go away a lot. We do a lot of camping, and we do a lot of remote camping, a lot of bush camping. And while we have a fridge in our camper, it's only small. It's not like a household fridge at all. And if we're going to be away for 6 weeks or longer, then it's not going to hold everything we need. So being able to take canned soups, canned chicken, canned mince, canned stews, canned steak, huge money saver. And it means we eat properly while we're away. Let me see. Andrea wants to know, what is the taste like for canned mince? The chicken tastes exactly the same, but I will tell you, here's a jar of chicken. If I tip it, you can see there's a little bit of broth in there. That's all chicken. There's nothing added to that. The broth that you see has come from the chicken. Now, I've diced it because I will use this for enchiladas, this particular jar, diced chicken. I use for enchiladas and tacos and spring rolls and things like that. The texture will change. It will be shreddable. So if you don't want your chicken to shred after you've canned it, add it last. Don't, where we would normally, if I was doing enchiladas, I would brown the chicken, then add the spices and the tomatoes and whatever. I cook off the spices, add the tomato, whatever else I'm adding, capsicum, onion, whatever else I've got to put in, because our enchiladas are always different. They're not really enchiladas, that's just what we call them. And the chicken goes in last so that it will stay in chunks. If I don't want it in chunks, it doesn't matter. Mince, excuse me. I've been talking a lot today because Wayne's been home. Mince tastes a little, the flavour is a little different. It's cooked. It tastes cooked. But if you are going to use it in a soup or a stew or a casserole or a pie filling or whatever, you don't notice it. You can eat it straight up. It's cooked. It's ready to eat. If I pop the lid, I could eat it by the spoonful. I won't because I don't like cold mince like that. But that's how it's ready to go. But it's also shelf stable. It doesn't need to go in the fridge. It doesn't need to go in the freezer. It can sit on my shelf for 12 to 15 months. Officially, it will keep for a bit longer. Bear in mind, though, like any tin food, the colour will change over time. The texture might change over time. Flavours, if you've seasoned canned foods before you've processed them, the flavour might grow stronger over time. But it's good. It's really good, Andrea. I try it. If you can find someone, try it. Questions have gone again. Anyway, now back to my notes. Sorry, I got sidetracked. So another reason I want to go more shelf stable is start of last summer here in Melbourne, there was a lot of talk with power companies about blackouts and brownouts happening this summer. And that, with the weird weather pattern we seem to be in, has me really concerned about, getting food out of the freezer and onto the pantry shelf. And that's become my priority. There you go. That's a word for me today. Now, when you add in the food shortages and there's limits on food, it just makes sense to have an alternative method of preserving. So if that method is dehydrating or water bathing or pressure canning the foods I want to preserve for the long time, so be it. That's what I'm prepared to do. Now, I will say, if you are new to it, meat, chicken, pressure can only. They cannot be hot water baths. I don't really care what your great-grandma did in the 1940s. They cannot safely be hot water baths. They must be pressure canned. And a pressure canner is not a pressure cooker. Pressure cooker, pressure canner, two totally different things. Pressure cookers are brilliant, and I have one and I use it. I love it. But a pressure cooker doesn't reach the pressure that is needed, and it doesn't maintain that pressure for long enough to build up the temperature in the middle of whatever you are preserving to make it food safe, to make it safe to eat, so that it won't kill you when you open the jar. because when you open the jar, it might look fine. It might smell fine. It might even taste fine. But that does not mean that all those botulism spores that have been in there in the middle have actually been annihilated. And that's what the pressure canning does. It heats up to the very center of the food so it won't kill you. There you go. I don't want to scare you, but safety first, folks, and use your common sense. It's better to be safe and alive than, save yourself a couple of $100 and dead, to put it bluntly. So I want to preserve the food for the long term. I want to make sure there is enough of everything that we need preserved on the pantry shelves. Now, to do that, I created a preserving plan. I worked on a year's needs for my family and pretty much what we used in the last 18 months or so. Not my original idea, folks. It was inspired by Lisa from Sutton's Days. Now, I've mentioned that channel before, and if you are interested in canning, I recommend that you zip over, type in Sutton's Days after our show, of course, in the search bar, and start watching her videos. She has a wealth of information for you. She gives good, clear instructions, and she has some really, really delicious recipes. Another excellent channel for canning, especially if you like to know the science behind why it is so, why something is necessary, is Rose Red Homestead. Again, I've mentioned that channel before. Pam goes into great detail about why a particular process needs to be followed for all her preps. Everything she cans or dehydrates or water baths or freeze dries, she tells you and explains so you can understand it why that method has to be followed. It's really, really interesting. Even if you're not interested in canning, it's really interesting to hear the science behind it. But when you hear that, then you understand what methods are safe, what methods are just plain foolish. Two channels that I absolutely really, for canning, love. Anyway, back to the canning plan after I have another drink. I'm really hoarse tonight. Oh, gosh. Why have a plan? Well, the plan gives me an idea of how much of each thing I need to preserve during the year. It tells me what size jar I need and which method of preservation to use for that thing. I sort of had a bit of a plan last year, but it was more like, oh, chicken's on sale, we'll can chicken. This year, it's a little more, goodness gracious me, a little more organized. Oh, dear. Now, I tried to be able to figure out how I could show you a screenshot of it, but I'm technologically challenged. I couldn't do that. So this is it. I'll put a link underneath me after the show and you can go and have a look in greater detail. But what I've done is made some columns across the top. We've got the item, half pints, quarts, dehydrated, water bath, or pressure canned. So I know what I'm doing. Now, the top one is meats. So we've got chicken, mince, sausage patties, sorry, folks, corned beef, roast beef. I will be adding braised steak and onions to that. Prepper pot puri, if anyone is following January, Prepper pot puri did braised steak and onions. She didn't call it braised steak and onions, but it's what we call braised steak and onions, and canned it. I cannot wait to try that. If I can can my own braised steak and onions, mind-blowing. Underneath meats, I've got meals. So there at the moment, I've got chili and meatballs. They're pretty much the two meals that I would can the most. Soup, so I've got chicken, minestrone, and stock. Chicken soup is so easy to do for pressure canning. Beans. Now, we use a lot of beans because I like them. And they're great meat extenders. And if you whiz them in the food processor, they don't look any different to mince. So I use beans a lot. So pressure canning, I have ranch beans. Ranch beans are simply beans that are canned in ranch seasoning, which is an American thing that the lovely Joy gave us some ranch dressing mix a few years ago, and I found a recipe to replicate it. Thank goodness, because we love it. So taco beans, soup beans, all those sorts of things. I'll show you just this one page because you can go and look at it. It's really, but other things I've got on it, vegetables, mushrooms, corn, carrots, glazed carrots, green beans, tomatoes, dried tomatoes, pasta sauce I put under vegetables, and potatoes. Lots of jams. Had a marathon jam making session on Sunday. Cordials I've put on the list. Syrups, because I use the syrups. We use them ourselves, but I put them in the hampers at the end of the year. Fruit. Apples, sliced apples, dried apples, apple pie filling, peaches, dried peaches, apricots and dried apricots, and then all the pickles and relishes and stuff like that. So I've done it in sections. Now, for the meats, I don't know if you can see. Can you see that? Whoops, going the wrong way. The meats. We've got chicken, and I'm doing it in pints. So I've listed 100 pints. Now, we might not use 100 pints of chicken in a year, but chances are we will, because we have chicken 2 or 3 times a week, and that only allows for not even 2 chicken meals a week. Okay, mince, I've done 100 in pints and 50 in quarts. This is a pint jar. It's a small jar. That's more than enough to feed the 4 or 5 of us. The quart jars are for when I'm doing big things, lasagnas, pasta bakes, a lot of pies. Then I just use the quart jars just to save opening a lot of smaller jars. So for meats for this year, I need to can 250 pints and 100 quarts. I've got 25 quarts of corned beef and 25 quarts of roast beef on the list. Corned beef is so good when it is pressure canned. Meals I've done in pints, except for the meatballs, they go into quarts. Probably because I just make the meatballs probably too big. For the 4 or 5 of us, a quart jar of meatballs. It holds about 20 to 25, depending on what size I make them. That's enough for the 4 or 5 of us, whereas I can't get that many into a small jar. So it's logical to do bigger jars. I'm going to do 100 pints of chicken. 100 pints of soup. Why 100 pints of soup? Because that's 2 serves of soup. So when it's just me home for lunch, that's 2 days' lunches. Already done, just needs to be heated up. It's just as convenient as a cup of soup, but nicer and healthier. We will still have our fresh soup on the weekends that we eat, but that will be my lunches in winter. Beans I've gone through, same sort of deal. They're mostly in pints because that's the size we need for tacos or enchiladas or to add to a chili or whatever. Vegetables are a little bit different. I'm doing mostly half pints for the vegetables because a couple of half pints gives us our veggie serves. So I've got the hiccups. This is a jar of mushrooms. If you like mushrooms, you've got to can your own mushrooms. They are delicious. So good. So it's a bigger jar, isn't it? It's not the one I wanted to grab, but anyway. But that's 4 serves of mushrooms as a vegetable. So smaller jars work better for us, for the vegetables. More for my portion control, my peace of mind of knowing that we're getting the right stuff out, if that makes sense. Alrighty. I've done jams. I've included the jams for us and jams for the hampers and some that I sell in my canning list, and salsa. I've also included the cordials, like I said, so 50-50, lemon, lime, lemon, raspberry, orange. I've got those up. Now that's 35 pints of cordial that I hope to be able to get made this year. For the entire year, I have till the end of December to do this. Syrups, iced coffee syrup, caramel syrup. I've got 50 pints there. Again, because we use some ourselves, but it goes into the hampers as part of the Christmas hampers. Fruits, I've got 30 half pints, 40 pints, and 40 quarts. And then the pickles. Now, I had a lovely time this weekend doing bread and butter cucumbers. Yum! And they taste really good. I opened a jar the other day. Alan wanted to know what they tasted like. Really good. They're mostly in half pints, but I have done some in pints. The ones that we, as a family, eat a lot of, I just do them in pints because it just saves shelf space. Frankly, it just saves shelf space. So all up for the year, that is 1,281 jars of food to be processed. That sounds like an awful lot. I double-checked. I double-checked my double-checking. And no, that was right. That was, pretty much what I had worked out. That is my plan for the year. There's no way I could get all that done in one go. I just couldn't. But I can do batches like I have been doing. When the garden is abundant, there's plenty of zucchinis out there at the moment, so zucchini pickle and dehydrated zucchini. Or if there's been a particularly great sale on mince or chicken or whatever, then that will help boost the stock of that particular thing. Now, on Sunday, a great day on Sunday, I was able to get a 14.5 kilo box of bananas for $5. $5. It's about 30 cents a kilo bananas. And while they looked a bit earthy on the outside, they are still perfect inside. Best deal of the year so far. I also got 8 kilos of strawberries for $10, $1.25 a kilo. I was happy to do that. We have plenty of strawberries in our garden in the strawberry patch at the moment, but we're eating those. We're eating those fresh. I'm having some for breakfast. We're having them for dessert of an evening. So the bought ones went into jam. I spent a lot of time Sunday. I spent about 6 hours on Sunday making jams. On Monday, yesterday, I did baking and getting bananas into the dehydrator to make banana chips. I've got more to go in tonight because the boys requested banana chips, so they better eat them. Now, I was able to take advantage of those prices because I had ways to preserve the food. I was able to get it used before it could be wasted, before it went moldy, before it went blech. I was able to save a bucket load of money for our grocery budget, add to the pantry, and not waste anything. When you break it down in chunks, if you're going to do a canning plan, if you're going to break it, or a preserving plan or a baking plan or whatever, break it down into chunks because that makes it doable. And I'll be like the ant, adding to the pantry little by little every day, every week, whatever works best with the time I have. Now, there was over on Cheapskates Forum this afternoon, there was a comment about microwave jam, and this person was going to try and make the microwave jam. She didn't realize it was so easy. Oh my goodness. I can do a batch of jam while I'm prepping dinner, and while dinner's cooking, I can be putting it in the jars and cleaning up. When you microwave the jam, it's brilliant. No burnt jam pots, no stuck bits on the bottom. I love microwaving jam. It's really easy. There is a great recipe for strawberry jam, but it works for just about any fruit. Apricots, peaches, plums, nectarines, raspberries, blueberries, mixed berries, whatever you want. It's pretty much the same. 500 grams of fruit, 1.5 cups of sugar, the juice of a lemon. That's it. Put it all into a nice big bowl, about a 3.5 litre bowl, because it will fluff up. Put it in, cook it on high for 5 minutes, pull it out, give it a really good stir until the sugar dissolves. Put it back in the microwave for 20 minutes. At the end of 20 minutes, it should have reached setting point and be ready to go into the nice hot sterilised jars that are just coming out of the oven, because they need to be in the oven for 20 minutes to sterilise. It's really easy. And then you've got a bowl to wash up, a bowl with a funnel and a ladle. No big heavy jam pot. I really like microwaving jam. I do microwave marmalades too, microwave pickles. It just makes it easier, especially if you want to do small batches. And small batches, if you've only got 2 zucchinis, you can do a small batch of zucchini pickle. You don't have to wait. If you've only got a kilo of tomatoes or 2 kilos of tomatoes off the vine, you don't have to wait till you've got 5 or 10 or 20 kilos. You can do a small batch of sauce. Preserving, canning, bottling doesn't have to be exhausting, and it doesn't have to be an all-day tied to the kitchen stove experience. We have it so much better than even my mother had it, because we have tools and appliances that can make that easier for us. To me, it just makes sense. I know that if there's a blackout, an extended blackout, power outage, I'm not going to fret about what's left in the freezers. If we lose it, we lose it, and I'll claim it on the insurance. But it won't be as heartbreaking as it would be if those freezers were full of beef and chicken and lamb and vegetables and fruits, and I lost them. Because I've made the switch and put it over onto shelf-stable preserving. I digress anyway, sorry. But in my plan, I deliberately outlined how the things were to be preserved, whether dehydrated, water bathed, or pressure canned. And I put little check boxes next to them so that I could follow through with that. Now that's it's sort of important, especially the water bathing versus pressure canning thing. And I mentioned that before. You need to know low acid foods cannot be water bathed. They need to be pressure canned. Now, the other thing the plan showed is not just the total number of jars that I need, but the number of each size of jar that I will need. Now, if you look at the plan, you'll see that over the year, I'll need 288 half-pint jars and 651 pint jars and around 300 quart jars. Now, that's a lot of jars and lids and rings. And I don't have that many empty jars in the shed. But this is a plan that's going to fill the pantry with shelf-stable food. And that food is going to be used. And so as the jars are emptied, they can be reused. I don't need to spend a small fortune because the price of jars is outrageous. I'll just reuse as the jars are opened, and as we use them, I'll be reusing them. Now, I need to stress here and clarify, I do not reuse lids for pressure canning ever. I don't care what the canning rebels say or do. It is not recommended as safe, and I want all the food on my shelves to be safe to consume. I do not want to be responsible for making someone sick, and I do not want to run the risk of losing a lot of money because I wouldn't spend a few dollars on new lids. Now, on the same theme, along the same lines, I don't use my Fowler's Vicola jars for pressure canning. Now, we talked about this a while ago, and there were lots of people that said, oh, yes, you can. You just double click, blah, blah, blah. Well, I contacted Fowler's Vicola. They do not recommend it. They will not suggest it. They told me their jars are not made for pressure canning, nor are the rings, the lids, or the clips. They will not stand by any of their product that has been pressure canned. So to me, I would rather err on the side of caution and do it the right way and be safe. It just makes sense. Now, lids are easier to get now than they were 12 months ago. I will say, though, if you are short of lids and you are looking on Amazon and eBay, be very, very wary of the unbranded 100 pint lids for, $37 or whatever, because they are not good lids. They are not good lids. They are flimsy. The seal is thin and uneven. They're not good lids. There are also quite a few ball imitations out there. So if you think you're buying ball lids, have a really, really good look at what you're buying and where it's coming from, just to make sure that you really are getting the ball lids. Now, there are other brands that you can use. There's Kilner is an English brand. The jar the mushrooms is in is a Le Parfait Familiar Whisk jar. These are gorgeous jars. They're so nice. And they're great. These are, again, it's a two-piece lid and seal. Works a similar way to the ball one, the way the ball one does. But the advantage of these jars is an actual lid, where with ball jars you only have the ring that goes over the lid. Over this lid there is another lid. So once you open the jar, you can just put the lid back on it to keep it in the fridge, which is really nice. Although most Vegemite or peanut butter or screw top jam jars will fit your quart and pint ball jars too, just to let you know if you want to keep them in the fridge. These lids can be reused. They can be reused 2 or 3 times. I did some research and I asked the question, and yes, they can be reused if you open them very carefully and don't damage them. Make sure that the seal is the rubber seal is unbroken. They can be reused, as can the WEC jar rubber bands. They can be reused too if you have WEC jars. Now, I mentioned the preserving plan includes what we will use over the course of a year to 15 months. But I also included the things that I put in the Christmas hampers, because I make those too, and they're preserved too. So the mustards and the cordials and the pickles and the jams and the syrups. So I've added those to the canning plan, just so that when it comes to October, November, I'm not panicking and rushing to get those things ready for Christmas. Now, the plan is just an estimate. It's based on what we've used over the last 12 to 15 months, and it is a lot. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be more than enough for 2022, and that's fine, because it's shelf stable and it's preserved, so the excess can carry over into 2023. I'm happy for it to do that. More than happy for it to do that. It's really reassuring when I walked through Woolworths today and on the surface it looked fine, and when you had a better look, it wasn't so fine, to know that we are set. We've kept the pantry full, and through this year I will be keeping the pantry full, and it will be with shelf-stable food, so that if there is a disaster, and oh, God forbid, the power stations, every single power station in Victoria goes down, I don't have to stress. The food we have will be fine. That's why I like shelf-stable food. Now, I'm going to take all year to do this. I think I've said that. A little bit often will get the job done. One thing I have been doing is taking things out of the freezer and canning them. This week I will be canning corned beef. I had a huge piece of corned beef in the freezer. Out it came, and it is, once it's thawed, it will be canned. Now, I would normally do corned beef in the slow cooker because it just melts when you do it in the slow cooker. Well, when you can it in the pressure canner, perfect. Just perfect. And that will come off the canning plan because it will be done. You know, having a plan, it's just a guide, but boy, it's going to help me, absolutely help me enormously. Now, since I started the plan, which was a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I've done 1 lot of lemon butter. Now, on my plan, I've got lemon butter in 4 lots. Why? Because it won't safely keep any longer than 3 months, even after it's been canned. So normally when you would do lemon butter, it goes into the fridge and it is good for up to a month. You can water bath it. There is a process to it. It is slightly different to your regular water bathing, so you don't just put it in, top it with water and let it boil. There's a process to it, and that's because it has eggs in it. It has dairy in it. 2 big no-nos in canning. But it can be canned or water bathed, and it is shelf stable for 3 months. So I worked out how much we go through each month, added it up for 12, divided it by 4. That's how much I'll be doing every 3 months of lemon butter. I've already organised a swap for some lemons this week. Yay, more lemons. Can never have too many lemons, folks. So I'm excited about that. Now, I will probably bottle the lemon juice. I did some last year, and it's really good. It's so convenient to have little half pints of lemon juice just sitting on the shelf waiting to be used. Really, really good. And they don't take up freezer room, and they don't get all sticky and irky like lemon ice cubes do, or lemon cubes. Frozen lemon juice does. I've done the strawberry jam, I've done the apricot jam, I've done bread and butter cucumbers, so they're done. Crossed off the list, put away for the year. I don't have to worry about those anymore. Doesn't mean I won't be doing more. It just means that what I'd planned is done. So any more that I get, so if I get cheap fruit or free fruit, and I decide to do more marmalade or more strawberry jam or raspberry jam or more bread and butter pickles, it's a bonus. So I can mark them off the plan though, and I don't have to worry about them again. I know we have enough to last us. If I'm going to be in the kitchen, if I'm going to be baking or making bread and there's downtime, it makes sense to use it to make a small batch of jam or pickles or get some fruit ready to dehydrate. I must drive the neighbours crazy because I put on some loud music because I like it loud, and I just work away. Now, the plan I'll put the link to is mine. If you have a preserving plan or you're going to start a preserving plan, yours may have similar things on it. It may be absolutely nothing like mine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's your plan. This one's mine. Work your plan. What is important, what does matter, is getting that food preserved so that it's shelf stable and not wasted. Now, my plan's just a guide for quantities, how I'm going to preserve it, and if it's in a meal or something like that, how it could be preserved. So like meatballs or sausage patties or something. I'll put the link down, but it's my plan. So don't stress about it. Don't look at it and go, well, there's only 2 of us. We'll never need it. Because of course not. If there's 4 to 5, sometimes 6 of us, then my plan feeds 4, 5, or sometimes 6, which means it's 3 times as much as a household of 2 might need. It will depend. And you might not like tacos, so you might not do ranch beans. You might not like carrots in onion stock, so you won't do them. You might not like sausage patties, so you won't do them. Just use the outline. Even if you don't pressure can, even if you just dehydrate or freeze, use the outline so that you know how you're going to do it. Have a plan, work the plan, be a success. Okay, now let me see. Questions? Oh, new comments. Oh dear, okay. Karen, dehydrated strawberries are so good to chew on when you get that mid-afternoon I really want something sweet. Urge, half a dozen dehydrated strawberries, hits the spot, and they're not wasted. Trina, I really like the idea of a plan. I've just been canning and dehydrating like Meg. Most of us do. You know what? It's what it never occurred to me to actually have a written canning plan until I watched Lisa's video. And I've gone, it just makes so much sense. You know, it was one of those light bulb moments. It also helps with your budgeting though, you know, because you know you want to do this, this, and this. So you know that you're going to need so much chicken or so much corned beef or so many kilos of beans or whatever it is. Do you have them growing in the garden, or will you have to wait for them to come on sale? Do you have someone that grows them that you can buy them off? That sort of thing. It helps your budget too. For me, the food security is first. The budget is second. And everything else comes after that. It's really important to me to be able to feed my family all the time. Now, I've never been hungry, you know, gone without food in my life unless I've wanted to. And my children haven't either, although they're adults now. But that is one of my greatest, as a wife, as a mother, as a homemaker, that is one of my greatest concerns, not being able to feed my family for whatever reason. And I'm looking at food shortages at the moment. But seriously, nobody really knows when they're going to be over. And when they are officially over, are they really going to be over, or are they just going to be the new normal? We don't know. We don't know what's in front of us. So I want to be prepared. You know, I'd rather prepare and not need it than sit back and go, no, the lady from Woolworths said 3 weeks and things will be back to normal. And 3 weeks come and things aren't back to normal, and we're not prepared and we're up the creek with our paddle. The plan helps. It really helps with that. And good luck with your garden. Amy, strawberries cheap last year, 18 jars of jam. It's nothing quite like strawberry jam. It's just so good, isn't it? So nice. And it was your first time and you did 18 jars. Well done, Amy. Good for you. Joy buys raspberries because it's her husband's favourite. Mangoes for chutney, yes. And onions by the sack when they're really cheap. Onions are so expensive at the moment. Even at Big Watermelon on Sunday, 10 kilos of onions, $14 a bag. Ouch. I have a Presto Michelle. I'd love an All-American too, but it's just the $1,200 is beyond me. Presto works just fine. Does the same job for, you know, quarter the price. So is mine, Estelle. It started off really well, but the tomatoes, I don't know what's happened to them. They are just really sad. Andrea, 30 fruit trees. Yay. Good for you. Excellent buy, Kerry. Raised garden beds, honestly, the older I get, the more I appreciate them. Now, we redid our garden last spring, And we bought new beds. We got metal ones this time. They don't look as pretty as the wooden ones, but they're supposed to last longer, I guess. And I did get them a little bit higher than the other ones had been, much to Wayne's dismay, because he was just thinking, it's going to cost so much more to fill them. But we managed to fill them. We got some free mulch and used our compost and stuff. Okay, now, any more questions, guys? Have I missed anything? Karen's going to dehydrate her strawberries, yeah. I still sterilize in the oven now. Guys, sterilize in the oven or in boiling water on the stove. There is a trend towards just putting your jars through the dishwasher and that will sterilize them. No, it won't. It will clean them, but it doesn't sterilize them. Now, if you're going to pressure can, that's fine. If you are water bathing or if you are doing jams or pickles and not going to water bath, sterilize them. Make sure they are properly sterilized. Seriously, you don't want to kill anyone. You do not want to get sick. It is terrible illness. I don't water bath jams. I make sure the jars are sterilized. Hot jars, hot jam, boiling hot jam into boiling hot jars. Boiling hot lids go on. They go on tight and they usually seal. If they don't seal, they go in the fridge and we use those ones straight away. And the jam keeps. I have never, ever had moldy jam, ever. It doesn't matter where we've lived, and we've lived in some weird places weather-wise. I've never had moldy jam. But yes, it's not so much an Australian thing. It's a very American thing to water bath your jam. I think here in Australia, we tend to, make sure it's full almost to the top. Put the lid on tight. As it cools down, it forms the seal, or you do the cellophane over the top. I don't like the cellophane over the top. You can still get them, the papers in the supermarket, but I don't like that. That's a very old way of doing it. Lids are getting easier. Now, okay. Kerry and Trina said lids are difficult. Big W, guys. Big W. Ball, genuine ball lids, big W. I was able to get, I think I picked up 10 boxes. 10 boxes? 10 boxes just before Christmas. Okay, water bathing. Anything you can water bath in a Fowler's Vicola jar, you can water bath in a ball jar, you can water bath in a jam jar, as long as it seals tight. Now, it needs to be able to seal tight and be obviously watertight so the water doesn't get in. Put it into the pot. The water needs to be 5 centimeters, 2 inches over the top of the jars. And then you need to process it for however long it requires, depending on what you're processing. So, but water bathing is pretty easy. Once you bring it to a boil, you start your timing from when it starts to boil. So put your jars in, turn it on, bring it up to the boil, start your timing from there. Now, if you have a lot of pasta sauce jars and like, Domio or whatever they call that sort of thing, you can get new lids for them. You can just buy the lids. Now, Aussie Mason jars, Oz Farmer. I saw some at Spotlight a while back. Homebrew shops. You can just buy the lids if you just need new lids, because sometimes if you're just going to use them for pickles, salsa, jams, things that you're not going to water bath, reusing the lid is fine. If you're going to put it in the water bath, you want to make sure that lid is perfect. The seal needs to be perfect. The inside of the lid needs to be absolutely perfect for it to work properly, for it to seal properly, for it to do its job properly. So if it looks even a little bit dodgy, don't do it. Alrighty. Ooh, that sounds really good, Estelle. Yep. Does microwave jam last as long as stovetop? Certainly does. Absolutely does. It gets to setting point just like it does on the stove. Your sugar has melted and become a syrup. Your fruit has broken down. It still reaches the 200 and setting point is, I think it's about 105 Celsius, 212, 220 or something Fahrenheit. The setting point, I've forgotten what the Fahrenheit is. It reaches that point. It keeps just as long. It's just, for me, if I've only got a little bit of fruit, it's easier to just toss it in the microwave and do a small batch. And then nothing goes to waste, and you don't get as tired, you're not standing in the kitchen for hours on end. Sarah James made many microwave jams. Yes. Way to go. I think microwave jam is great. Okay, Amy wanted to know, I think I answered this. Now, I have a reasonable stock of jars. Jars can be reused. So ball jars can be reused. These jars can be reused. Pasta sauce jars can be reused. Jam jars can be reused. If necessary, you get new lids. That's it. So, but we'll also be eating what I'm preserving too. So it won't all just be sitting on the shelf looking pretty and going, here's Kath's shelf-stable food supply, yada, yada. Because if I'm not going to use it, what's the point of having it? So we will be eating from it too, which means that not quite as fast as I'm filling them probably, but we will be rotating through the jars. So have a good stock of jars that I've collected over the years. Haven't bought them all at once. I was gifted, a friend gifted me for Christmas, absolutely brought tears to my eyes, ball jars with lids and rings. I was a dozen, 12. I was just dumbfounded. It was the most beautiful gift, and I couldn't wait to use them. So I filled those up with chicken. But yeah, as we will be, they get reused. As they get emptied, they get washed and put into the shed and usually brought back in within a couple of days anyway to reuse them. Jam jars. I don't use ball jars. I don't use my good canning jars for jam. I recycle jam jars. Now, I was gifted from the lovely Joy, gifted me last year a great big box of jars for jams and pickles, and I've been using those and working my way through those too. So that's another thing you can do. Now, if you are looking for jars for your jams and your pickles and things, try Marketplace. Put the word out. Ask people. Tell them that you want them. You'll be inundated with jars. And if you absolutely have to buy them, go to the op shop. They're 10, 20, 30 cents each at the op shop. So, as a last resort, if you have to buy them for your jams and marmalades, pickles, relishes, whatever, do that. It sounds a bit, does it sound dodgy to say don't use your good jars for those things? But what I mean is keep the canning jars for canning and water bathing, and use the jam jars for jam. When I put the jars into the hampers, I try to use pretty jars, but it's on the proviso that they come back. And if the jars come back, they get refilled and sent again next year. If they don't come back, I haven't got the jars, so I can't refill them. Is lemon cordial similar to lemon recipe-wise? It's lemon juice. My lemon cordial is where the 50-50 cordial is 50 lemon juice, 50. I just use straight lemon juice. I don't mind it a little bit tart, a little bit sour, so I don't increase the sugar. You can if you want to. And that will depend on your lemons too, because have you noticed that lemons aren't quite as lemony as they used to be, or as they have been? I don't know whether that's a weather thing that's causing that. I don't know. It could be the type of lemons that we're getting. But some of them are absolutely almost sweet. So, no, I just do it the same way. The recipe's in the recipe file for 50-50 cordial, 50-50 lemon orange cordial. I just use all lemon juice. I've used all orange juice. Yeah, we just drink it. Kids will drink anything. Okay. Estelle, if you go into the Member Centre, go into the tip sheet page, and under ebooks, there's a how to preserve ebook. Yes, I keep the receipts. I track our grocery costs, and I keep the receipts. I just staple them to the inside of my diary. Write a note on them what they are, so that I know what's where. The other thing is also an inventory of your freezer, because you might have bread in there, you could have cakes in there, you could have pastries in there. So you keep an inventory. Now we have freezer inventory templates on our website. You can adapt them to suit your freezer contents if you don't, if you think that what's on the list is weird. But if you keep the inventory, a couple of things, you'll know what's in there, but it also helps you rotate through so that you don't forget what's in there, what's at the bottom, and lose it, and then find out, 3 years later, there's a mystery package at the bottom of the freezer. Do you cost the price in the price of jars? I'm just thinking if we have hundreds sitting on shelf. They would come under our general house insurance, not the freezer insurance, not the lost food in the freezer jars. So, for instance, if we had they're part of the contents, as would be the pressure cooker or the pots and pans or the towels or whatever. I do roughly know the cost of what the jars or the value of the jars and what they have cost, because again, I keep a note of those things. I don't cost it into the cost of the food, though, if that's what you're asking. I don't know if Kerry answered you, Estelle. Canned potatoes are not good for frying. Sorry, canned potatoes are fine for frying. So if you wanted to drain them and dry them and heat some oil and fry them, they would be a bit like roast potatoes. They are no good for mashing. Well, I shouldn't say that because we eat them mashed, but they're a bit like gluggy instant potato if they're mashed, but they're great for potato salad. Canned potatoes make the best potato salad. It is so good. Really, really good. And they're great in soups if you want to put them into casseroles. Really, really good for things like that. Yes, we were talking about this the other last night or earlier today. Someone I was talking to about potatoes, Kerry. Apparently, our weird summer has ruined potato crops all over Victoria and north too. So if you can get potatoes, look at preserving them. So can them is a good way to do it. Freeze them. You can freeze them. You can parboil them and freeze them. You can chip them and freeze them. You can mash them and freeze them. So they just don't freeze very well. Well, they freeze fine raw. It's when they thaw that they're ugly. Right. She is Acre Homestead is part of Canuary. So she did, I think, salsa today, which was really interesting. I'm not sure I would do it quite that way, but it was interesting to watch. We have in our mixes section of the recipe file, there's a ranch mix too that's really, really tasty, really, really nice. Estelle, the easiest ones, if you want to do vegetables that aren't pickles, carrots. Carrots bottle really nicely. If you can get baby carrots, you can do them whole. You can do them in chunks. You can do them in straws. You can do them in circles. Carrots really well. And if you want to make them really tasty, put your carrots in the jars, and they'll be clean, sterilized jars. Put the carrots in the jars, and then you're going to make up a broth with boiling water and a packet of onion soup, French onion soup, 45 cents or 55 cents, or whatever it is from Coles. Make that up and pour that over your carrots. Put the lid on, put it in your water bath, in your canner. Bring it up to temperature, and away it goes. A little pinch of salt too, but not a lot, just a tiny pinch. And if you are canning, don't use iodized salt. Just use straight salt. So you're not going to use iodized salt. It leaves a nasty taste in canned food. Just straight sea salt for canning. Or you can get canning salt if you want to pay the extra for it. I've canned corned beef, Kerry, and I'm not one to push the boundaries when it comes to this, but it is just amazing. But then I dehydrate mince too, and it's not recommended, but it is so convenient, so very convenient that that goes camping with it. I use it to make spag bowl, I use it to make lasagna, I use it to make tacos, I use it to make pie filling, I use it to make I rehydrate it and add breadcrumbs and onion and make meatballs with it. I love my dehydrated mince. It doesn't keep as long as canned does. So, well, no, I shouldn't say it doesn't keep as long. It'll keep as long as it in an airtight jar. But it does tend to change taste over time because there is still a bit of fat in there. So when you're dehydrating it, you want to get as much fat as you can off it before you start to dry it. But I love my dehydrated mince, and I like my canned corned beef too. All right, now I'll put the links. Okay, underneath me, I'll put a link to Sutton's Days, a link to Rose Red Homestead, and a link to Prepper Potpourri, because I've got the steak out of the freezer to do the braised steak and onions. I can't wait to try that. That will be on my job. That's my job for tomorrow. And more banana bread and banana muffins and banana chips. Okay, I'm going backwards here, sorry. Yes, there we go. They're as hungry. They're hungrier than their father ever was. They eat us out of house and home. I used to, when my kids were little, when the boys were younger, I used to tell them they had holes in the bottom of their feet and food used to just flow through because I couldn't keep them full. So yeah. Nope. Not even close to an empty nest, Estelle. Should be around $400 at the most. I'm not sure where you were looking, but yeah. Meatballs and like the sausage meat patties for our muffins, our breakfast muffins, go into a jar like this with broth over the top. So I use beef stock because usually that's what I've got, and put that over the top to keep them moist, and it also helps. It stops them clumping together, so there's not one great big clunk of meat, because there's a risk then that the temperature in the middle will not get high enough to actually do what it's supposed to do. An easy way to shred chicken, any cooked chicken, so it could be cooked roast chicken, it could be a barbecue chicken from the shop, it could be jarred chicken, is put it in a bowl or put it in your mixer bowl and turn the mixer on and let the beaters do it. That works for corned beef too. And even if you've done roast beef in the slow cooker, or you've cooked it slowly in the oven or the pressure cooker, put it into your mixer bowl, put the beaters in and just turn it on low and it will just shred. It's wonderful. It is such a time saver. Such a time saver. Alrighty. Well, new comments, gosh. That's Joy's talking about this. Sorry, guys. Kiwi fruit carrots. Okay. Well, guys, that's my canning plan. I'll put all the links when I'm finished here. I'll put all the links underneath me there for you. If you've got any more questions, drop them into the comments. I'll do my best to answer them for you. But having a plan, I'm confident now. I feel more confident that that we will be right. Now, I know the pantry is full and the freezer's full, but I'd rather the freezer not be full and the pantry, what's in the freezer, be in the pantry. So that's my goal for this year, to absolutely try and get down to just one little freezer instead of having the 3 that we have. Because not only is there a lot of money sitting in them, they cost money to run. So and I'm trying to cut expenses, not add to them. Alrighty. Oh, Lorraine, you just made it and we're just about to finish. All right. Okay. Oh, Andrea, I'm sorry. That's bad news. Have a look at my side hustle video. There might be something there that will help you. I've been going like crazy this week on those side hustles. I've done more dishcloths. I've done more scrubbies. I've cut out aprons that just need to be sewn. I've done a gazillion cards up there that are just waiting to go into bags. They've got to be photographed and put into bags. So all sorts of things going on here. It's been a busy week. Okay, I did not realize it was quite so late. I am so sorry. You guys need to tell me to shut up. Just put shut up in big letters so I can see it. Thank you for joining us. If you like tonight's show, please give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, because when we hit 5,000 subscribers, this baby will be out of my craft room and into someone else's house. We will be drawing the Sunbeam Food Lab electronic dehydrator as soon as we hit 5,000 subscribers. I can't wait. I cannot wait. And if it goes to someone out of Australia, we've got that solved too. Because we can't send you, if you're out of Australia, we can't send the food lab, but we have that problem solved. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Australia or not. As long as you're subscribed to our channel, there's a chance. You don't want me to shut up? Oh, that's nice. You're very kind. Okay. I'm pretty good at talking though. Alrighty. Thank you for joining me again. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Thumbs up. If you know someone or you can think of someone who might like to know about Cheapskates Club or who you think might benefit from this video, there's a share button. All it does is send them a link. We do not harass them. It's entirely up to them if they want to click on it. I will be back next Tuesday, if not before. Depends what happens, doesn't it? Okay. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe. And remember, keep calm and cheapskate. Bye.